Iron Man MCU vs. Marvel Comics, 5 biggest changes to RDJ's Tony Stark explained as is to be expected when adapting stories that span years into a series of movies. Some of Iron Man's most significant story beats in the MCU veer significantly from his comic book origins, but these changes can be easily explained. When the Iron Man movies introduced Robert Downey Jr.'s Tony Stark as the MCU's first hero, he wasn't nearly as famous as he has now become. Yet by expertly drawing inspiration from the most compelling stories in Iron Man's comic book career, Marvel was able to turn Tony Stark into their most famous hero, whose tenure was rendered all the more poignant by his captivating journey over several movies. Iron Man is arrogant, yet is one of the most charismatic MCU characters whose career was defined by his struggles with his own mind and the mind-bending tech it gave rise to. In turning Tony Stark into a star, the MCU took several creative liberties, not least of which involved making him decidedly more likable and humorous than his comic book counterpart. Some of his most important storylines, however, were changed substantially in comparison to the comics, with these being the most significant. Possibly for the sake of narrative expediency, Tony Stark wasted no time in revealing his identity as Iron Man in the MCU. The moment came to define his entire arc as the line "I am Iron Man" book ended his tenure as the vainglorious leader of the Avengers and self-appointed protector of humanity. The original Tony Stark, however, was neither as quick nor as enthusiastic about revealing his identity as the man inside the suit of armor. In fact, the comic books didn't have Stark reveal himself until 2002, after a career of pretending that Iron Man was his bodyguard. The reasons for the change were not only character-defining, but also a moment that cemented his indelible swagger in 4 short words. Tony Stark's movies would see him wrestle with the consequences of his audacity as the likes of his business rival, Justin Hammer, co-opted and corrupted his tech, and Aldrich Killian would attempt to enact revenge on the man who spurned him. It also flew in the face of the popularly depicted concept of secret identities in superhero movies, setting Iron Man apart from the likes of Batman and Spider-Man instantly, marking the MCU as a compelling departure from the norm. The MCU decided to change the source material significantly concerning the role of the original Ant-Man, Hank Pym. In the comics, Hank Pym and Janet Van Dyne are founding members of the Avengers alongside Iron Man, Hulk, and Thor. In the MCU, however, Hank had been operating as the genius scientist behind the Pym particle and the Ant-Man suit for several years by the time Tony took on the mantle as the MCU's most prominent scientific mind. This precluded Hank Pym from the majority of the Avengers' antics, most notably the creation of Ultron. Tony Stark's part in the creation of Ultron was a pivotal moment insofar as it burdened him with guilt, as his technology was once again misappropriated as a force for destruction. It provided an easily understandable motivation for being in support of signing the Sokovia Accords. Originally, however, Ultron was Hank Pym's self-modeled creation and a dark reflection of Pym's deep-seated misanthropy and insecurities. Pym's omission from the wider MCU story in favor of Scott Lang is because Scott is a far more relatable character who may not be as nuanced as his predecessor, but is a lot easier to like.